Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Chatting in the City podcast. This should be like episode 5. I have a cold today, so I don't want to speak. So I got some of the homies on so they can take over for me. So yeah, man, today I have some of the homies. I got Birch, I got Jimmy, I got David, the day ones. Actually, I think David and Jimmy are day ones. We're all like day 5 together because you guys are like family, right?
Yeah,
all of us are like day 5s. So I just wanted to get you guys on to just have like an open talk, an open discussion about how we're feeling, what's going on in the world, and how we've adapted. Next month, our lab is doing like a Black Students Wellness. We're doing a Black Students Wellness Month for the whole month of October. So we'll be having self-care meditation sessions. We'll be having roundtable discussions with actual licensed psychotherapists. There'll be a group for men and a group for women as well. That and more. So this will be kind of like a little, almost like a dry run of that, but without an actual therapist. Because I'm not a therapist, I'm not licensed, so we're just going to be talking, all of us, about how we're feeling. All right, man. So yeah, how have you guys been? We'll start with the guy with the first name, Aaron. Hey, Aaron, how you feeling?
Hey, Aaron. You know how many times I've heard that joke though? But anyways, let's move past that. It's crazy, man. All I can say is it's crazy world, man. The times we live in, it's still crazy to me that like we're walking out every single day in a pandemic. Like there's, you have to come to the fact that you're at risk every single day you leave your house. It's crazy. Like I don't know, like, it's a huge adapt. That's all I gotta say right now. Yeah.
Jimmy?
Yeah, I mean, like same as Aaron. I feel like there's just so much that's sort of been thrown at us all at once, and especially being Black, being a person of color in this time, it's been really, really difficult. I think the past, it's felt like the past like 4 months, but it's really only been a couple months that sort of everything has sort of kicked off, and it's been hard. I can't even lie. It's hard to find ways to continue to get that motivation. To wake up every day and be like, let me attack this day with a fresh mindset, because the toll really takes up on you.
Right, David.
Yeah, bro, I agree. I think this year, 2020 in general, I mean, obviously every year people have challenges that they face, and personal challenges, workplace, relationships, family, whatever the case may be. I think this year has been difficult for anybody, regardless of who you are, just adjusting from being people or creatures of so like we're all social creatures, and having to go into isolation for a little bit, like Aaron mentioned, and living through a pandemic. But I think it's especially been a very hard year for Black people, and that's just a fact. The year started off like, and even now we've lost so many icons for our community. And then, everything that's been going on with police brutality, not only in the US, but in Canada as well. It's definitely been a very difficult year. It is very hard, like Aaron and Jimmy have said. I think Jimmy made a good point about like just finding the motivation to be able to wake up and attack every day. I feel like now I've kind of come into more of a steady rhythm and flow, but in like April, May, beginning of June, it was really tough. It was really tough to just like find worth in like the things that you're doing, because when you see people who look like you being gunned down and not getting justice on the news, and then you think about yourself in those scenarios, and if something were to happen to you, like would justice be taken, or would there be an impact on some of your non-Black friends? It's definitely like something that you can really struggle with internally. So it's definitely been hard, but I think like conversations like this, and kudos to you, Boaz, for doing this podcast. I think conversations like this can be very cathartic for Black people and for Black men in our case, to be able to come together, talk about how we're feeling, and be able to support each other, moving forward.
Respect. Aaron, I want to circle back to you. You said, I haven't actually heard somebody say that in a long time. Like every time you step out of your house, you're putting your life at risk. Not just necessarily your life, but the life of the people you live with, of those around you, your loved ones. And I feel like I haven't heard that in a long time, because obviously we've been in this quarantine sort of state for a long time. It's been months, since, I don't know, March or whatever. I haven't actually heard that in a long time, because like it kind of shows like how much we've kind of like adapted in a way.
Normalized it.
Yeah, like we've all normalized. I haven't thought about that in a long time. When you said it's like, it's true. It's like every time you step out of the house, you're taking the risk. You're probably gonna walk into a store to buy groceries, or you're gonna get on the bus or on the train, whatever it is. It's like you might get it. This ain't no joke. The corona's out here, bro. You might get it.
And now the second wave is coming. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like the stupidity is absolutely astounding. Like being in Kingston, which is like a known, student city, and just being like around the environment and seeing people at the bars and just, not even wearing masks. And, there's not people social distancing at all times. Like, I just feel like, and even just seeing videos on social media, like it's I just, you don't want to leave. Like, you honestly don't. Like, I haven't seen like any of my friends recently in Kingston today, in the past like 2 weeks, just because I don't feel like I should have to put myself at risk because some other people who might not even be related to them, like it might not even be my friend's fault. It could be someone that they know that's not taking the chance. I have to think about that too. I can't just think about who my friends are, because then they have friends and those people have friends, and that's as easily as that. You can get it as easy as that. It only takes a matter of seconds for you to get it. As long as you're close to them, it's done.
It's scary. Like the fact that I haven't thought about it in that way for such a long time just kind of shows how it's either like I've adapted or I've just like stopped thinking about it, because if I keep thinking about that, I'm just gonna go insane. But I don't know what that is. And like David and Jimmy, you guys said something that kind of relates. Jimmy mentioned motivation, and David mentioned like doing things and feeling like whatever you're doing is worthwhile. That's how you put it. And like my question to you guys is, as humans, we're very social creatures, and I found that obviously like whenever I hang out with the homies, whenever I see the friends and we talk, whatever, whenever you leave that gathering, right, that sort of social interaction, you feel fulfilled. There's like this like almost like you feel a lot better, right? And obviously that's been taken away from us because all of us have to obviously stay in our little bubbles or whatever that may be, and that affects your motivation. So I'm wondering, what have you guys been doing to kind of like try to stay on top of things, stay motivated? Jimmy?
Yeah. Well, like real talks, I could sit here and say, at first I struggled with this and I took this course of action. I did this, here I am, and I'm thriving.
You're the hero, yeah.
But that's just not the case, and I feel like for me at least, it's been sort of like an everyday battle of finding a new motivation each day, or just trying to hold on to the little things that keep pushing me to want to attack the next day, and then to want to feel my emotions and feel what's going on around me, feel what's happening in the world, and also just be able to take all of that in and say, yeah, you know what, this is what's going on, and we have to be able to deal with this one way or another, right? So I don't think there's any one sort of remedy or any one motivating factor or point of motivation that you can give to anybody that's gonna get them out of whatever lump they're in. I think it's all about, like you said, maybe that physical connection has been taken away from us in a sense, but checking up on your friends, and even if it's just like a text or a call or something small like that, just making sure that you're staying connected with people, because it does get hard not being able to see or at least see people as often as we're used to.
Yeah, and I think for me it's like all of that, like Jimmy said, I completely like agree with. I think the other thing is just being able to find enjoyment in the things, like the same things that you would do regardless of quarantine or not, obviously within restrictions and bubbles and all that kind of stuff, but still being able to get out for physical activity, like still taking those days where what, like today I'm gonna stay in and just reward myself and do something I like doing, whether that's making music, listening to music, staying in bed all day watching Netflix. I found like I've become a lot more at peace with like I don't have to be 100% productive every single minute of the day, because I would just go crazy if I lived my life like that. And there's some people who it's like, they can wake up every single day and like 18 hours, they're just getting stuff done. And respect to those people. But I really realized in quarantine that like I'm not that person. I obviously like I work very hard and I put like my all into the things that I do, but I've also realized that I just also need some days where I'm just decompressing and I'm able to just take some time for myself. And I think that in itself is a different form of being productive to ensure that, you know, I don't go stir crazy like everyone's throwing around that kind of term nowadays. So still being able to find enjoyment, you know, within your bubble, whether it's virtually. I feel like virtually I'm not really a fan of virtual anymore because my job is literally like I sell online to people through Zoom. So I'm on Zoom all the time, literally every single day. So afterwards, someone's like, yo, I'm trying to FaceTime, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I'm not really, you know what I'm saying? I'm not really trying to spend my free time outside of work on FaceTime. But yeah, I feel like, you know, just finding some enjoyment or reasons to still be able to do things that are leisurely is massive right now.
Like I was talking to another friend and he was saying how like the quarantine, obviously, you know, people got sick, people were dying. That's like the big thing. But another thing that came out of it was almost like for everybody, the mirror was just placed in their face.
Yeah.
It's like you're forced to look at yourself, kind of like, what have you been doing? Are you actually, you know, because I feel like for a lot of us, we're sort of like neglecting some parts of our lives. Like you said, sort of making sure you know, take the time off that you need. If you need to watch Netflix for the day, you do that. If you need to go out, you know, go for a run, hike, whatever it is, do that. We kind of neglected that because we're stuck in this whole, you know, I need to be 100%, you know, just efficient. Gotta get work done. Gotta get work done. Gotta get. And it's kind of like, it's partly, you know, just kind of like baked into our brains by people like, I don't know, David Goggins, right? The guy's out here. Come on, y'all, get some, right? Whatever he says, right? Yeah. And it's like, I can see how that's helpful because he's sort of like I listened to somebody talk about Goggins and he was like, Goggins is like everybody else's battery, right? If you're feeling low and unmotivated, go to his page. There's gonna be a video of him running, and then he's gonna hype you up. You'll get back to work, right? Yeah. But it's like being him every day. To me, like that's a type of hell. There's no way out because I've always felt like David Goggins is as amazing as I've never met him, so I don't want to talk bad about it. I've always felt like he needs to stay on top of everything because he knows that if he doesn't, you know, for that one day, if he lets one day get by him, he's gonna get back to where he was, you know.
Because he knows where he's coming from. Exactly.
So he's kind of like he's running away from what he was. Like if he just keeps going, like there's no way he can stop. There's no way he can stop. And that kind of relates to the mirror getting put into everybody's face. It's like, what have you been neglecting, right? Have you actually been spending time on yourself? Have you been taking care of yourself? Have you been getting enough sleep? Have you been doing all that stuff?
Yeah, I was just gonna add, like, I think for me personally, one of the biggest lessons that I've learned in the past few months is that you don't have to be, you know, going at 100% all the time. You know, before quarantine hit and, you know, when life was sort of, you know, normal back then, I was in school working and playing varsity sport at the same time. And like thinking back at it, my schedule was super hectic. Like, you know, that shouldn't be the normal. You know, that shouldn't be the norm for someone. Waking up 6 a.m., going to a practice, you know, going straight to class, coming back for another practice, going home, you know, finishing some schoolwork, and then you barely get any time. And it's like, that's go for literally 7-8 months straight, right? So I think one of the biggest takeaways that I've gotten from the past few months is that you don't have to be that, you know, machine like sort of battery going at 100% all the time. There are days that you can, you know, literally just wake up and be like, yeah, I'm not feeling anything today, you know, and that's okay. You don't have to be that productive, you know, put out something every single day.
Yeah. And I think as well, like the reason why that, like Boaz, you were saying, the mirror is so big is now the lines between work and being at home is so blurred. Like if I get an email at 9 p.m. and I'm at my desk, like not doing work, then it's very instant. Like I just flip a switch and I'm already in work mode and I might work a couple more hours where maybe that time I would have rather been like at the gym or like maybe just chilling with my roommates. It's because now like there is no like physical allocation to work. So it's really hard. Like I found it super hard at the beginning of quarantine to switch off. Like I was actually sleeping and having dreams that I was responding to emails, and I would wake up and have emails and be mad confused, like, yo, I think I already wrote the response to this email. Like, that's how bad it was, because my desk is literally right next to my bed. So I had to I like got a Headspace membership for like meditation, and like I started doing yoga and like just like different things where I was like, yo, I can't be living my life like this, where like usually that 8 hours I'm sleeping, my brain is completely switched off from work, but I'm actually like dream working or like whatever was going on. So I think like just like the disappearance of that line between like you're at home or you're at work was massive. And especially for us young people, like we've only been in the workforce, a minimal amount of time compared to like people who've been working for 20 plus years. So for us, it's an extremely hard time to just navigate, like, who am I at work? Who am I at home? And how do those two pieces fit together?
That's fascinating. The whole kind of like the lines becoming more amorphous between, work and home life. So when the quarantine started, I was like, I was working for this lab that we do the podcast for, and I was doing it online. So it wasn't necessarily a hard thing to kind of like jump into, because we had weekly lab meetings and stuff like that. But as soon as school started, I kind of felt what you're talking about, because I have some courses that I have to basically go through by myself, like certain modules are set up. You just kind of have to go through every lesson, do the quiz, do the whatever the test, and then keep moving through. And I kind of felt that where I was like, I had to make sure, like, I had to actually like make sure I do this stuff myself. Because usually, like, if you're going to camp, if you have a class on campus, you're going to go to campus, sit there. There'll be a lecture, whatever that may be. If the quiz is there, you do it there, and that's it, right?
Yeah.
School, and then you're home. Yeah. But now it's like I'm in the same place every day. I gotta be like, okay, so today I gotta do this. It's all like there's no divide, right?
Yeah.
So like you said, for us young people, we have to like develop this whole self-regulating mechanism that's like, okay, so I have to do this at this time and this at this time and whatever. And it's like, it looks like that might be where we're going. People just working from home all the time. So then that becomes a thing where
I hope. Yeah, it's nice now.
It's nice now. You gotta like figure out exactly like what you're gonna do, when you're gonna do it, to make sure you obviously spend time with your family or your roommates, whatever that may be, and take care of yourself, which can be really difficult, because for a lot of it, it's like we need context, right? You want to be, whenever you're in this place, like, all right, I'm here, I'm doing this. Whenever you're in that place, like, I'm here, I'm doing that. But now it's like that's been lifted, bro. It's like you're at home. Your home is your work. Your home is your whatever, your bed. Your home is whatever that may be. So you gotta like toggle through different mind states throughout the day to like work your way through everything, which is, like you said, it's kind of wild.
That's what I was gonna add on to what David and Jimmy were saying about the line. I was gonna say what you just said. I feel like that line is being blurred with everything that we're doing. Like, doesn't matter. Like you said, it could be the gym. Like, you're having harder motivation to go to the gym, even though it just recently opened. I feel like that's also going to be a potential hotspot for COVID as well. So now you're not going to want to go to the gym. You're not going to want to just leave. And that's what I was saying, or what Jimmy was saying. You have to find a reason every day to want to do the day, because you have to think about, oh, what am I going to do today? Well, I can't really do anything. Well, I'm just going to do the same things I do every single other day. Wake up, go to my laptop, do what I got to do, work, log off.
Every say go to work, you say go to bed. Go to my laptop. 3 steps over, you add to the computer. That's it, bro.
But like you have to think about it, because it's actually what's happening. Like sometimes we don't actually take it in, because we have to get into those different modes. But in reality, we're waking up from our bed, we're eating, we're going to our desk, or we're going to bed, and just rotate through the whole thing over and over again. And it would drive anybody insane. So I think it's very hard to like what Jimmy was saying, to attack any day, but gotta do it, right? So
Jesus Christ, if that's what we're going, bro, like I know David said that's good because it's fun now, but no, man, I don't think it's good, because like first you just said you literally get up from your bed, over to your desk, get some food, then over to your desk, do your work, then back to your bed. It's like that's the most minimum amount of movement in a day that you've ever had.
Absolutely.
And like, I think that's in the context of a pandemic, though. I feel like working from home if we were even in a state where it was like, not even the restrictions right now, like, okay, you can have 50 people in a space or whatever, and like there's other indoor spaces that are open, I think that just allows people to be a lot more flexible in their lives. And like, even now, like, obviously I don't have a family, but being able to say, okay, I can allocate this time to work. And then if I wanted to, I can easily over lunchtime go for a walk or like meet up with a friend or whatever, or work in a different place. I think that's amazing. But I think right now, because we have to be restricted to our homes and the spaces that we're in, it can seem like you're in jail because you wake up, you go out, okay, go out, but you can only interact with the minimum amount of people possible, then go back into your house and continue and finish your workday, right? But that's just like my opinion on it. I think in like, let's say we were working from home and this was, early January, February, where we all had the same social circles in terms of size, we could do whatever. That would have been amazing because once you get adjusted, and obviously it doesn't work for everyone, but once you get adjusted, I think it just gives you so much more flexibility in your day where you're not every single day you have to be in this physical space to get your work done. Because some people work better from home, but then they still have all the other elements where maybe you have kids and you want to be able to be home when they start school and be home when they end, and like log off and then spend time with your children, as opposed to most people in Toronto, you end work at 5, you're doing 2.5 hours of commute, you're home at 7:30, you're putting your kids to bed at 8. You really only have the weekends to spend with your kids, right? So I think there's like a lot of different benefits that might come from it if we're able to get back to a place that COVID isn't like the biggest factor that we use to consider everything we do.
Right. Jimmy, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I will say definitely working from home has, afforded me the flexibility to, if I wake up late one day, I can do that. I don't have to wake up and start stressing about having to, rush and get into the office and that takes your mind off of work and you start stressing about all these other things. So I think working from home has been sort of nice in that sense. Where again, like David said, you can sort of allocate, I'm going to work on this for, this amount of time. And then if I want to take a break, I can just go downstairs and watch an episode or something, or I can literally just go outside and take a walk around my block, come back in and get some more work done. So I do think there are huge benefits from being able to work from home. But again, just like David was saying, it's the fact that we are confined to our spaces and everything has become blurred. I think that's what's made it so hard for, especially me, a lot of people, but especially me during this time.
Yeah, I guess in the end, it is what you make of it, right? You have these whatever restrictions that may be. It just becomes what you make of it that what determines what comes out of it. Like my only issue with it is kind of like I've always felt like society is becoming more sedentary over time. Like I always think of what's that movie, Wall-E, right? I always think of Wall-E when you see the people just like sitting in their chairs, those chairs, and they just God, I don't know if you get it. They just guide them around.
They float around.
Yeah, where they're drinking whatever it is. They're drinking the straws right here, eating the food right here. They just don't move and end up being like 500 pounds or whatever that may be. Obviously, that's a little ridiculous, but it's like I just feel like over time, like we're fortunate enough to live in a society where we have, technology that can allow us to just literally not move, right? Like we just said, you get up from your bed, go over to the kitchen, grab food, go over to your desk, do your work, log off. That's it, right? You want more food? Grab your phone, order something from Uber, whatever, right? Like my issue is like the physical activity and just like getting the body moving. It's kind of like not necessarily being taken away from us. We're kind of like we're starting to ignore it.
Less of a priority.
Yeah, it's less of a priority. I have another question. Have you guys been feeling any sort of like anxiety, depression throughout this time? Because I mean, myself, I've always like the quarantine was weird because I'm like, I don't mind being alone. So at the beginning, I was like, "Oh, it's quarantine, all right, we'll be fine." So I mean, I was thinking the quarantine will be like maybe 2 months and that's it. Everybody will be okay. I was like, 2 months, I'll be fine. I don't, I'll do my work, I'll do whatever, and I'll be okay. And then I feel like after it was like, I want to say like midsummer, I was like, bro, what is happening? This is not ending anytime soon, right? So the anxiety just started coming up. It started getting to me. And I was just, because like everybody else, I was like, I guess what everybody felt at the beginning, I started feeling then, right? That's just like a difference in me, but I don't know how have you guys been feeling?
I mean, personally, when the pandemic struck, it was kind of honestly, I'm not gonna lie, it was a godsend, because then it went from, everybody working, like being at school, to at home, and it gave me, more time to focus on the studies there. It felt like I had more time for myself, and just to figure out where my life was going ahead of time. But as it, progressed, and the racial stuff and the police brutality, it just kept on rolling and rolling and rolling. It kind of just escalated everything inside me. So I did one time end up having a panic attack just because of everything that had to ball up. It was just an intense moment where I had to come to terms with all the things that was happening. And it put myself in such a depressive state that it was just so hard to want to do anything and to want to work. I ended up having to leave the job because it was so intense for me. And then I ended up changing the whole situation. I ended up moving. I got a new job, and I put myself in a more free, more expressive place, and ended up working better for me. But I know that there are people who are really struggling. I know that my sister and my family close to me are struggling with those things day to day. And, coming to terms with what David said earlier, with us being black, and all the racism and brutality that's going on, it's hard to want to go out and just face the day wondering if, that stuff's going to happen to you, and what happens if it happens to you, is this going to cause something to happen? Is justice going to be taken, or you get shafted like Breonna Taylor? Like I don't understand. Like it's frightening, honestly, to feel like the people that are supposed to protect you don't even give you a chance to say anything, that we're ultimately looked at differently than anybody else, and it's shown, and it's frustrating, and most of all frightening. So I think that it's putting me in a very protective, safeguarded space where, again, I have to make my home my den, make this my secure place where I know I can control every outcome, and I have everything around me because of technology that we have. It just makes it easier, but I'm definitely feeling that struggle day to day, because it just puts everything in perspective, especially with my friends, because that's crazy to me. Is that how people can go from supporting Black Lives Matter and then just switching a flip, or just being silent? Because I don't have problem with people being silent, but I have problems with people being silent near people who are saying something borderline. So that for me is a problem. Like, if you don't want to say something on a day-to-day basis, like you have no direct correlation to this, and you post your Black Lives Matter and whatever, and you stay silent after that. But if you're allowing people to talk about it while posting this, is hypocrisy, and I can't stand for it. So that's what's really shown, is who of my friends are actually concerned about my life, because it's in danger. And that's what all of us as Black people have to come to terms with. If we're in danger every time we pull up and there's a cop.
Jimmy?
Yeah.
I know I touched on it a lot. Sorry.
It's good. It's good. It's good for you to get it out.
We're here for it. I feel it's definitely been hard. Is the past 3-4 months have definitely been a few of I've had a few of the hardest moments probably of my life condensed into these past 3 months. And I feel like, or I know obviously that I'm not the only one that has sort of felt like this. And it's like Aaron said, it's frightening at times to wake up and just feel sort of hopeless, in the sense that you see everything going on with the pandemic, and there's really no end in sight. Cases are skyrocketing, at least here in Ottawa, and people seem to continue to not take it seriously. So you're seeing all of that, and then on the other hand, you're seeing all of these racial injustices and things that we've been dealing with for literally all of our lives, and they're just now coming to light, and people are just now sort of starting to understand that Black people have been facing all of this for a long time. And then, like David mentioned, some of the icons that the Black community has lost in the past few months. It's been so difficult. I would be lying to you if I said that I haven't, gone to bed crying sometimes, or I haven't, had panic attacks. I haven't had moments where I've just felt completely hopeless, because that's really all what it has been. But Aaron said something really, really, I think important that I want to touch on, is that, making your space your own, and being comfortable in your own space. That's something that I'm learning. That's something that I've been able to confront a little bit more. I've just moved in May, so I've had the opportunity to sort of, build my room, and sort of build the house the way I wanted, and, throw up decorations where I wanted, and, mount my speakers, do all this and do all that. And I think at the end of the day, that makes it a lot easier to come, into your room, or, go into your house, and just feel comfortable, and feel at ease, and be able to recognize that, yeah, I may be struggling with this, and I may be struggling with all of this, but those times are going to pass, and I have, a comforting space around me. I have comforting people around me. I have people that I can reach out to, if anything. So I think for me, it's just finding those small things to hold on to, and seeing that hope wherever you can, and just keep fighting.
The home base gives you a sense of control, where you feel like, obviously, in the world that's just, out of whack, you kind of come home and you feel like, okay, this is, I can kind of predict what's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen to me here. Right? I'm safe. Right.
And if anything does happen, it's still your space. You're so comfortable if you're in your room, and you get a call that, something's happened, or whatever. It's not like you're in some foreign place. You're still in a place of comfort, where you can be able to deal with, whatever news that you just gotten in a comforting way, I guess.
David?
Yeah. Man, yeah, that's a lot of like really important stuff's been said. I definitely like felt a certain level of anxiety at the beginning, and I'm not someone who like gets overly anxious. And it wasn't like anything extreme, but I had just started a new job like when quarantine hit. I was in that job for a couple of weeks, and then it was like work from home. So I mean, we've all started new jobs before. The first like 2 to 3 months, you're really just learning the ropes. You're just figuring out, you're getting to meet coworkers, and it's like kind of awkward at the start. Just like, what's the balance between like a coworker and starting new friendships? So all of that stuff that naturally happens when you step into a new role. And obviously I felt the pressure to, kind of perform. And usually like things that I do in a new job is like, oh, I show up early and I try to work later than people. And like, that just like will get a good positive impression. But when you're home, that stuff kind of goes out the window. Like no one knows, like I don't have a job where it's like, oh, I clock in at a time or I clock out. Like no one knows if you start work early. No one knows if you're working late. They're just like, just make sure you get your stuff done. So I think just the willingness I wanted to impress, and all of that stuff was kind of already a certain level of stress that would come from anyone working in a new workplace. And then as things started to happen, I remember like when, the first weekend, when everything kind of first happened with George Floyd, I will say like I have in some cases gotten like pretty desensitized to a lot of the stuff that happens in the news. Oftentimes when a new case will pop up, I don't like to read it or like look into it right away, just because I know like the emotions that I'm gonna feel. So oftentimes I kind of hesitate, especially when there's videos. Like I really don't like watching those videos and just seeing, Black bodies being murdered. But I remember when I finally kind of looked into the George Floyd and I watched the entire video. I had also like recently seen the Ahmaud Arbery video as well. And I reached out to one of my friends. His name is Flo. He's like a few years older than me. And I was like, man, I honestly, like, right now I don't have the willingness to do anything. Like, I just need to talk. So I had like a phone call with him after, I think it was a Monday, like after work, where I had gone back to work and didn't really like, not that I was expecting people to reach out to me, but didn't really feel any sort of like acknowledgement for the situation that had happened. And that's what I was saying. Like, then I was like, man, what's the value here of me like working really hard and I'm trying to do super well, but something as basic as like, life doesn't really get that attention. So that was like, I think that was like an extremely low point for me, was after that happened. And also just, yeah, just like not getting a certain sense of recognition from different friends that I would say, if I if they were in a very similar situation, and I actually went through and like took stock of my friends, I was like, if this person was in a similar situation where something like this was happening, would I be someone who would reach out and say, even though I don't know what to say verbatim, just being like, hey, thinking about you, checking up on you, if you need anything, let me know, sending you love. And I took stock of those people, and I was like, and I'm not getting this from these people, so definitely there either has to be a conversation to be had here to educate, or this is not a friendship that's truly valuable on their end, where it's like, yo, my life actually matters in that way. So, and Jimmy, like our families have had tons of conversations around this. So I think that was like, not only just like from a point of anxiety, but also just from a point of like fatigue and exhaustion, where it was like, we're seeing all this stuff on the news. Obviously, like the system is built in this way that it doesn't value Black people. And now like we got to take on the task of like educating our friends to bring them along, even though our generation claims to be like extremely progressive. Obviously, there's just a lack of education that exists. So I would say like that was like probably May, June.
Yeah.
Was like a really, really hard point and a really hard time. But also, I think the benefit of the pandemic and all of this and the fact that everyone is home is that there has been a lot more time for these conversations, which I find extremely valuable.
Yeah.
And I have found, and I will say, like, obviously, like I was saying, like all these friends and stuff, I will say that I have seen an increased willingness for people to learn and to be able to be there for their Black friends. Obviously, not everyone's doing it, and stories are posted. I think some people post it as a way to show face, but that's not my place to judge and say you're posting a story and like you're not having this conversation with me, because they could be having with someone else and I don't know that.
Yeah.
All I can do is like have those conversations with my friends who are willing to, and if anyone else is willing to, like provide myself as a resource. And that's like the way I've chosen to kind of go about it. But again, then like things kind of went along, and I'm sure all of your Instagrams were flooded with people posting stuff and all the different like little cards. And now it's like maybe fizzle out a little bit again, but I think it's going to be an ongoing thing, right? And it's unfortunate that it falls on Black people to like advance these conversations, because ultimately, the decision makers in a lot of these systems are white people, and as long as white people don't care, I don't really think things will change. But we can't lose hope. We got to keep going.
That's true. You mentioned something also, Aaron brought it up. The fact that there are certain people who didn't necessarily, let's say, reach out or sort of do something that, sort of signify that they understood what was going on, struggle that certain people were going through, right? And I was thinking about that for a while. I was like, when the stuff happened, first of all, the George Floyd video, I watched, like when you're on Twitter and like a video comes up and like it shows you like 3 seconds, that's all I saw. I'm like, I'm not watching this. I am not watching this. Because I know that if I watch it, how long was it? Like 8-9 minutes, whatever. I'm not watching
8:46, yeah.
I'm not watching that, because if I do watch it, I feel like I'm going to be in a worse place than I would be. So I just kind of felt like, okay, what's the point of me watching this? I know what, I know what happened. Everybody's talking about what happened, right? Guy knelt on his neck for this amount of time and he died. He didn't get justice. Okay. So then from that, I was like, I felt like I didn't feel like I needed to post something or be like, oh yeah, whatever, do the whole, what was it, like the black card or whatever that was. Because it felt like one of those things where it's kind of like you just do because because people expect you to do something, and then once they've seen you do something, you're okay. You're one of the good people. You're one of the good people, right? And it was kind of like, yeah, it was one of those things where it just felt really weird to me. Like you started seeing big corporations do that too, have add that into their bio, right? Amazon, Black Lives Matter, but like at their warehouse, they're like killing people, working people to death, literally. So it's like, do they really believe in this, or are they just kind of just putting it out there so people can just leave them alone, right? So that was a big thing. It's like the fact that maybe you didn't feel like certain people reached out was because they felt hesitant to like even say anything, because it's like, I heard this thing that almost blew my mind. Some comedian was talking about how we live in a time when doing the decent thing, doing the nice thing has been tainted to a point that it's been made into virtue signaling, right? It's been made into a thing that you do because people are looking at you, not necessarily because you do because you want to do. Even if you do it because you want to do it, it becomes, it gets spun into this whole thing that you did it because, you were kind of like looking around thinking, okay, what do they expect me to do? Okay, I'll do that, right? It's a really, really weird thing.
And then you get flamed for it. And that's
Go on.
That was one thing too. Like I hopped off. Sorry, Jimmy, go ahead. Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, wow, that's a really great point. Is like, yeah, people don't know what to say, and maybe that's why they didn't reach out. My point was like, and I had this conversation with a couple of friends, was like, I know, like, as a non-Black person, you just don't want to say the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Because on Instagram and Twitter, people are just like saying things that they think is the right thing to do, and then people are coming for them, and people are just, shaming people, roasting people. And I actually have to hop off social for a couple of months because like I'm tired of seeing this. But I think that once you have a certain relationship with someone where it's like, I consider you a friend or a close friend, you don't even have to say the most politically correct thing. I think it's just from a point of like, of love and care where you can be like, yo, I'm thinking about you. Everything I'm seeing is really messed up. Like, I don't agree with any of this. And that's it. Like, it doesn't have to be like, this is how I think our justice system should be reconstructed to make sure that you get, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be that deep. It could just be like from a place of just care and love. But definitely, I think that's one thing that, and I obviously don't think I have the answers to that, but people are trying to do the right things and maybe share the information that, they can use to affect their networks. And then it's like, oh, you're sharing it from the wrong account, or like you're sharing it from this activist who practices this form of activism that's not acceptable, or whatever the case may be. But I think even, taking, like, removing the whole like sharing to your story or tweeting or posting is like, do you actually value those relationships? Like, do you actually think about what your Black friends might be going through, and how are you there for them as a friend besides what you post on social?
Yeah,
right.
I was just gonna add. I was gonna say to your earlier point, Boaz, that time will always tell. Sort of who's genuine and what, or who is being performative, and I think we got a really clear example of that yesterday or on Friday. The whole Megan Thee Stallion situation and Tory Lanez. And we got this really clear indication of, a couple weeks ago, all of these people were posting Black Lives Matter, especially Black men. We're posting Black Lives Matter, let's protect Black women. Let's do all this, let's do all that. And then all of a sudden, not even a week, not even 2 weeks later, you're switching up and you're supporting someone that has openly shown that he doesn't value the life of Black women. So I feel like, to David's point, what you really can do, and all we can do, is have these conversations with our friends and with the people that we genuinely feel we have a connection with. We genuinely feel that, I care about you, so I can have this conversation with you. And it may be hard. It will be hard. But because I care about you, because, we do have this relationship, whatever it may be, we're going to have this conversation. So I think that's sort of the path that I've been trying to take, less of, trying to educate the masses and, getting mad at every single person I see on Twitter, doing this and saying this. But it's really just trying to establish those real connections, with the people that are close to me, the people in my proximity. And I think that's where we can all start. If the person next to me is able to come away with something, learn something new, I played my part, and if someone around me is able to, teach me something, is able to, put me onto something and put me onto new ideas and open my mind to new ideas, they've played their part. And it's not a one-time thing. It's a continuous sort of thing that we all have to be conscious of. And, we just have to start with the people in our proximity.
Aaron, something to add? Yeah, it's gonna be awkward. It has to be an awkward conversation, but it's one that you have to have. People do hard things all the time. So I just, that's what I gotta say. It's gonna be an awkward situation. I can't, I want them, like I said, people can stay silent I don't even mind if people don't necessarily reach out to me.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really mean anything to me, honestly. It's only people that I've questioned when they've made remarks just in general. Like they'll be going along making jokes, you know.
Oh, okay.
Even before this, you know, all the George Floyd and all this police brutality and all this, they made their jokes before. So I only really questioned them and their, you know,
Like question them, like if they're posting stuff.
No. Questioned if they would even do that in the first place. If they were even would support the opposite side, that they would question, you know, the victim. So I never really took it that far, but yeah, it's gonna be an awkward conversation. I don't like. I don't mind, honestly. It's just.
And if I could add just one real quick, and I don't know who's gonna be watching this later, but you know, if there are any non-black, non-people of color watching this, I think a word of caution or word of advice is just be mindful that black people aren't your experts.
We're not the black Google.
You don't have to come to us with every single question that you may have, because we're not only getting it from you, we're getting it from boss at work, we're getting it from teammate, we're getting it from here, we're getting it from here, and it builds up. That gets so exhausting.
Right.
So yeah, I just thought I've had a few conversations where I know that they mean well, but it gets so draining after the third and the fourth and the fifth time that people are coming at you expecting me to answer all these questions like I'm an encyclopedia. So
yeah. But Jimmy, you mentioned something that's really important, that it has to be a sort of like a bi-directional conversation, right? So obviously they might come to you with a question, and like they're genuinely concerned about something, and they ask you a question. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you give your answer, whatever, and then they say something. So there's like an exchange that goes on. It's not necessarily you preaching at them.
Yeah.
Something that happened over the summer was that stuff started happening, and it made me so mad, because I feel like, okay, so there's the system is what it is, right? It doesn't value Black lives, okay. And you have the people who you perceive to be in the system coming to you and asking you, hey, I've never actually seen this. I'm seeing it for the first time, and I'm sorry about that. Can you tell me more? I want to learn more. And then you take the stance of like, you hop onto like your whatever moral high ground. You start like preaching down at them. The moment you do that, you've kind of like you've flipped the scales. You've done what they were doing, right? Now you've done it to them in a way, and it's like every moment when you start preaching at someone, they're not going to listen to you. They're just not. Like, think about it. Whenever somebody's just like trying to just preach things down your throat, it's like you're not going to listen. But if, like you said, if there's this whole kind of like back and forth, whatever, they might have a question and then you answer, and then they say something like, you say how you feel about that, this back and forth, that can actually work and would actually get to a better place.
Mm-hmm. And, I'll never get mad or I'll never sort of look down on another Black person or person of color for, feeling frustrated. I guess when you're barrage of all these questions and all these statements, and on top of everything else that you're dealing with, for reacting sometimes the way that you may, it gets frustrating, but definitely the way that I've tried to approach, and this is just like my personal philosophy, the way that I try to approach life in general is I'm open to listening and learning, but also if there is a time to speak and there is a time to educate someone, I'm open to doing that. It does have to be sort of that two-way street. But I do think there was a period of time where in the last few months where we've had to just sort of buckle down and say, you know what, for years we've been saying this and this and this and this, and nobody has listened to us, so right now isn't the time for you to come and say, yeah, no, we need to have this open conversation. No, you're not teaching me in the correct way or in the correct manner. I think it was important for a lot of Black people to just say, you know what, this is a time for you to just shut up and just to listen, and I think we need that. 100%. I think that was necessary to a point.
Yeah.
David?
Yeah. I was gonna say that was a really great point, Jimmy. I was gonna say, like, I think it's definitely scenario based. And actually, like, I was part of a friend group where it was a complete call out of like, hey, like, my friend had like posted an article and we shared it with this group of people, like with like both Black and non-Black individuals, and only like the Black people had recognized that this article was shared. And my friend, who's like also a Black male, like him, was like a complete call of like, hey, like, I wrote this piece saying like how I felt. I shared in this group because everyone in this group matters to me, but there was like no recognition. And some people call it calling in or the calling out, whatever the case may be, actually really led to a really great and open conversation with everyone in that group, where we're able to provide some education and really some perspective, I think, to how people were feeling at the time. So to Jimmy's point, I do think like frustrations can be built up, and sometimes like people express it differently than others. All we really can control is like our approach to how we have those conversations. But yeah, like, I think really like, and yeah, in agreement with Jimmy, like there was a point where it was like, I think people were trying to say, oh, like, I haven't seen this in like this type of way, or like, I don't feel like I'm learning the best, like, if you talk to me like this. But it's like, yo, that's not even your thing. Like, you can't control how a Black person might voice those frustrations to you. It's really just like coming into that space and being willing to learn, and also being willing to deal with the fact that someone might not be happy with you in how they voice it. But ultimately, it's like literally years and years and years of frustration that are being voiced through maybe that 5 to 10 minute conversation. So you can't expect it to be quite intense. But then after that, I think ultimately all I think any Black person wants is, justice and equality. And it's ultimately like still quite disappointing that in a year that cars can drive themselves, we are living in a world where we treat Black people like they did when they were riding horses. You know what I mean? And that for me is like one of the most baffling things.
I think just to sort of add on to that really quickly, I think it's important to note, again, Aaron said this, Dave just said this, that these conversations are going to be awkward and they are going to be hard, because there's a lot of learning that needs to be done. That's the only way that I think we're going to progress as a society, is if we unlearn and relearn a lot of things, and that's not going to be easy, and that doesn't only apply to when we're talking about racism and equity and inclusion. There are so many topics that a lot of people think that they're well informed, or think that they're behaving in the right manner, or they believe that they're behaving in the right way, but we may not be. So I think just approaching every conversation you have about these kinds of topics with an open mind can really get you it can get you really, really far, because there is a lot of unlearning that has to be done. I don't know everything. I know you all on this call don't know everything, so there is space to learn and there is space to unlearn, and we just have to be willing to embrace that awkwardness and that sort of discomfort, because it's inevitable. It's gonna happen regardless.
Aaron, I have one question for you. Whenever you're having these conversations, sorry, do you say awkward? Right? When you ask a question, do you fill that in? Do you?
No, of course not. Well, honestly, not many people have reached out. Like, I mean, I live in I'm not gonna lie, a pretty racist city. Like, this is a really, really bad. Like, this city is really bad. Like, when school was around, all my friends would go out, and I obviously, and I don't want to sound prejudiced in any way. I have plenty of white friends. I love white people. Okay, so I just want to say that. But
for those who are listening, this city is Kingston, right?
Kingston, Ontario. Yes. Right. So it's a pretty bad. So we'd be out, and of course, as we're all on this call, I'm sure if we were all in the same city and out, we'd all see each other and be all out together. Yeah. So we were all out together, and of course, because we're all Black in a white dominant city, we look suspicious. So, that brings out different drunk people, and, drunk people always, what I say is, drunk minds say sober words. So, you know, they would say something racist and then there would have been a kerfuffle. So the amount of times I've seen this or even just experienced this just from hearing about a game that people played. It's called Spoons. I heard about this and I'll never forget this. Oh my God, you guys are going to go wild. This game is called Spoons. Is where white people go around driving in a car. If they see a black person, they throw a spoon at them. And if they miss, they throw a spoon at them and say the N-word. If they miss, they have to go pick it up. That's the game. I don't understand. And apparently a white person explained this to their black friend, which even boggled me even more. Like they've willingly played that game. How? So I just, you know what? The city is just terrible. I'm sorry. I can't even.
Yo, actually crazy story. Because I was just on vacation on the West Coast, like last week. And I was meeting up like with a friend who lives in Vancouver for coffee. And I was staying at a friend's place and like in this like mostly like Asian neighborhood. And like, since I got my like twist and I just wear my do-rag like most of the time. And honestly, like I just wear it so much that sometimes I forget I have it on. But honestly, not the point of the story. So I go out and like, this is like 3 p.m., bro. So it's like daytime. There's people walking around, whatever. Vancouver also doesn't really care about the pandemic right now. So there's a lot of people out. And I'm walking, I have my AirPods and I'm listening to some music. And I see in front of me like this like Asian woman and her daughter. Daughter's probably like 6 or 7, like holding hands and they're walking. And we're walking the same direction. We're probably like 15 feet away from each other. They're in front of me, I'm behind. I'm just walking. And they're starting to look back. And at first I don't really notice because I'm just like in my own world. You know, AirPod Pro noise canceling, so I don't really, you know,
sick guy.
This guy's a sick guy. So I'm walking, and they look back a couple times. So eventually, like obviously, I take notice, and yo, guys, no lie, they start running. No cap, they start running, and I'm like, no, okay. I'm like, yo, in my head, I'm like, no, they're running for like a bus or something. Yeah. But they look back like 3 more times as they're running, and like we legit make eye contact. And in the moment, I was just like, whoa, like, because I'm sure you guys have had similar scenarios where it's like you're walking and there's someone in front of you and they look back and then they'll like stop to the side and let you pass and then they'll continue walking, whatever. Like we obviously all had those, but I've never had like blatant like running away from me. And like we're still going in the same direction, so I'm still walking obviously, and they just like peel off to the right, like down this alley, and then I go eventually and I take a right turn further down. Then when I come out, I see like they're behind me. So ultimately we're walking in the same direction, but it was just like that discomfort. Not really related to like what we've been talking about with like with mental health and everything going on, but it's just a story that that happened, and I was like, did that really just happen?
It had to do with my game of spoons.
No, also it relates. It relates because like my next question is like, how do you feel like these things that happen to us, you know, that incident that happened to you in Vancouver, how do you feel like that affects obviously the way you see the world and it affects your mental health, right? Because that's one of the things we study at the lab. We study like basically factors like that affect people's mental health, which then affects their resilience and coping. So then the question is, how does that affect you? How does that affect you, Bertz? How does that affect you, Jimmy? Like whenever something like that happens.
I think mostly it puts a perspective on yourself. Like I think Jimmy said earlier, puts the mirror right in your face and saying, this is how the world sees you. You need to come to terms with that. Because, you know, I might be, say if I was in a situation that David was in, I'd think, you know, I'm some big scary black guy that's like seems like they're gonna mug somebody. But to me, you know, I go to any race of my friends, they'll come to me, they'll be like, yo, this guy's like a little baby. He won't do anything. Because that's how I see them in their individual race. So it's like shocking to see someone from whichever race, whatever it may be, just so terrified of just who I am as a physical appearance. Because they don't know me. If I was the same person or white, it wouldn't be an issue. They'd just see a big white guy. They'd probably be amazed or something like that. And actually, this reminds me of something that happened to me a few weeks ago, I was at a social distancing party, and, and
you gotta specify, bro.
Yes.
How many people were in the room, fam? We need to know.
We didn't actually even go in. We didn't actually even go in. This is what happened. Not a word of a lie. We switched destinations, and then me, my girlfriend, and my two friends who are Black went to this house, and all we did was individually walk in and see, and then walk out. Mm-hmm. And then all we did was stand there because we knew someone that invited us to that function. There was only maybe like 15, 20 people max. Oh, you're not frozen. Okay. David was really still. I thought you were frozen. My bad.
Just listen to the story, bro. I'm captivated.
So then we were just talking outside. None of us had been drinking or anything. We were just talking outside. And then these people started coming outside and individually like saying like, yo, who are you? Who invited you? And then we said, so-and-so invited us. And then we talked to so-and-so, and that's clear. And then these two girls came out and said, again, wait, so guys, who are you? We're starting to get a little uncomfortable. We don't know who you are and like what you're doing here. And we're just like, yo, we're just standing here. We're not even doing this. We know this person and we had just talked to them. Like, that just reminded me of that story. Like, it's just so shocking how you don't even have to be doing anything. It's literally you just standing, your presence as a dark-skinned person terrifies a group of people, regardless of if that group of people is bigger than yours. So that's also a factor. Like, how many of them are you, and you're still scared of this one individual person that's not even doing anything? You know, that's how it boils down to. And these people are the same people who boil back down to people who are posting just because they want to save face, like the company's boss said. They just want to show themselves as, you know, we support this, but you know, in our own house, you know, we're talking like this. We're uncomfortable with your presence. So if something happens to you, it's like whatever. But of course, to everybody else, you know, you got to show face. It's crazy. You know, people switch up all the time, and you know, their true colors are always shown at the end of the day.
Yeah, I was thinking about this actually the other day, and hearing, you know, Birch's and David's stories just sort of reminded me of the thought I had. And it's like, I'm 21 years old, and for the majority of my life, I've had to deal with, you know, these microaggressions. You know, ever since I was a kid, you know, I remember, you know, growing up in England and my brother going to school and you know, white kids would come up to him and touch his skin and be like, oh, you know, like, does it fade? You know, is it real? And these are things that we deal with right from, you know, a young age. So imagine, like, you know, having to deal with 20 plus years of literally microaggression after microaggression, and those microaggressions build up and become, you know, super aggressions, and eventually become, you know, the things we were talking about in the headlines, like, you know, the police brutality and the killing of Black people. You know, but as you mentioned resilience earlier, and I just wanted to touch on that because I feel like as a Black people, I was reading an article a couple weeks ago that was basically talking about resilience and how Black people are often painted as, you know, a super resilient people and a strong people. But that's really just a way of saying, yeah, you know what, whatever we throw at them,
we can keep doing it.
You know, we can keep doing it. We'll keep putting them down. We'll keep pushing them down, and they're going to come back in the name of resiliency. You know, so I think it's important to recognize that we don't have to be that strong figure all the time. You know, we don't have to. Yeah. I'm huge on you know, if you get knocked down, get back up. You know, keep fighting. But that sort of false idea of resiliency as a good quality of being Black, I think that's sort of overplayed, you know, and we have to understand that as a people, we can afford to take those breaks. You know, we have to be able to take those breaks, and we can't be that 100% rock all the time, you know, because that's just not a healthy way.
Yeah. And Boaz, to answer your question on that story, like, how did that story impact me? In the moment, like, I laughed about it. Like, I wasn't like, I was like, oh, damn, I'm going to go home and like think about why this woman and her daughter ran away from me. And like, it's really going to affect and like destroy the rest of my vacation. Cause I was having a blast out there. But I do think a lot of the times when we see these cases of police brutality and it's like the officer feared for his life, I think like that's the kind of thing that has an impact on my mental. Is like there could be a situation where maybe like I could just be walking, or maybe I could have a disagreement with someone in public and we're going back and forth exchanging words, and someone can just be afraid for their life and take an action, and that's going to be seen as like they took a just action, or like they can do something and like ultimately be protected by the law. I think that's like the biggest impact, because Jimmy made a great point about resilience. I feel like for the most part, like when things like this happen, I'm typically someone who just like lets it slide off my back. Like I've been called this and that. I've been called the N-word, and for the most part, like I've never like resorted to getting physical with someone for saying it or whatever. Like there have been a couple of times, obviously, if you're with the group and groups going back and forth and group dynamics kind of explode. But for the most part, I just see it as like, okay, this person is clearly, this is their mindset. They've chosen to believe. I know who I am. I value myself. So I'm not really going to resort to that. But I think a lot of the things that I've been feeling in the past few months, and I think some of us have been feeling as well, is just that fear that there might be a situation where someone is afraid of, again, like Aaron said, the presence, and they might take an action, and ultimately, like, who are we going to call? The people who are supposed to protect us, and they're the ones feeling this exact same way as who that person might be feeling, right? So I think that's like the biggest impact for me on my mental health. It's just like you definitely have those moments some days where you see something online, and you just like, damn, like this is like, I just don't ever want to be in that situation. But the reality of the matter is that it could be any single one of us. And like what history has shown us is that the law isn't going to be on our side, which is like, you know, a really scary thought, man. And especially like for us now, like getting into our 20s, like we're ultimately getting to a place where we probably want to start athletes, and hearing them talk about like these athletes who are very successful, talking about the real fear of like being away from the families and thinking like, yo, if my son or daughter's walking down the street, what could happen to them despite of their last name that they have? Ultimately, like, who am I, bro? Like, I'm still trying to figure out my life. I'm not even on this level of success. So like, if these people can have that same, I think that's what the biggest impact I would say is on you from a situation like that. It's not really immediate, but I think subconsciously it definitely chips away at you.
And I think to kind of finish on what you said, we as Black people, you know, as much as, you know, everything is so new and so feels like it's present, you know, we're thinking in the back of our minds, it's like, it is what it is, because this happens all the time. From microaggressions to streamlighted highlights, it's the same thing. It's coming from the same place. The same root is causing all these problems. And at the end of the day, we're just tired. We're just so fucking tired. And also, I wanted to touch on what you said earlier about the pandemic. It can be you, and we just need to think about it. Like, I'm sorry, my dog was just doing something. We need to realize that it can be us. We'll never know until it actually happens, but we have to always think that it can be us, and we have to try to prevent that. So
stay vigilant.
Exactly.
Jimmy, before we close this out, when you talked about resilience, that can definitely happen. You can, you know, people can pervert resilience, but the fact of resilience is that it's not the thing about resilience is that it's not a thing that you have, in the sense that you are a resilient person, right? You're not a resilient person through and through and through and through. It's just that resilience weirdly kind of like happens to come up for certain people regarding to different things that are happening in their lives. So if you're resilient once in your life, it doesn't mean you're going to be resilient when the next thing happens. That's what's really fascinating about it. It's like, it's kind of like an on and off type thing that happens every now and then. So like that article, when they were saying that, they call us super resilient so they can keep doing this to us. It's like, that's a perversion of it. That's not actually how it works. But I get, I guess how that, serves their means, right?
I agree. I agree with you 100%. I just think that, if, for example, you want to have a conversation on race and equity and diversion with someone that may not be educated on or as educated on the topic, and you ask them, what is your first thought when you hear the word like black people or black women, and they'll tell you, you guys are strong people. And while that can be a compliment, while yes, there are different meanings, there are different sort of ideas behind resilience and behind strength. I feel like a lot of the time people just attribute that to us because of all the shit that we've been through, and they'll be like, yeah, you guys went through this and you came and you guys went through this again, and look at you came back. And right now you're going through this and you're out here fighting, you guys are so strong, all this. And it's like, yeah, but do you even see me as a person? Like, do you view my life as someone who doesn't even have to, be strong to be valued? Why do I have to get knocked down and to show that I'm a strong person for you to, just value my life in the first place, right? So I think that's sort of what I was touching on resiliency.
Yeah, people, they have to see us as, as people, who have feelings, who can fail, who can cry, who can, who have feelings. But we've been going on for an hour and like 12 minutes. Thank you guys so much. I always love talking to y'all, usually in person, but like, regarding the situation, we have to do it this way. But thank you so much for joining me. I love you guys. Take care of yourselves.
Love, boys.
And for those who are listening,
thank you for having me.
For those who are listening or watching, whatever you may be doing, we have resources for people who are, who are struggling through this time. We have support centers you can call. They'll all be, on the website that we have. And also the website gives like a breakdown of the most common mental health problems. So anxiety, panic attacks, depression, stuff like that. It breaks them down in terms of etiology, symptoms, treatments and stuff like that. So if you need help, just hop over to that website. If you just want to learn more about, the health problems, just go over and check it out. Yeah, man. Thank you guys again.
Don't be ashamed.
Do not. Do not. We all need help.
If I could throw something out there real quick before we end, I just want to say, boys, I appreciate you giving us this opportunity to sort of sit down here as black men and talk about something that even for me probably last year I wouldn't have seen myself talking about a lot of these things with you guys. So I think it's super important, as black people, as black men especially, to see other people having these kinds of conversations, because it is super important, and it definitely is.
Yeah, it shows a light that the things that you're feeling, other people are actually feeling it. That like you may think it, but you're seeing it now having these type of conversations. So it's good. Thank you.
Last word.
Yeah, I was about to say, boys, I appreciate you, but I want to make sure you know it. So I'm gonna say I appreciate you, dog. You're always like someone who brings people together to have really important conversations.
Yes,
I've been observing the things that you've been doing with Venture Lab. Is it Venture Lab?
V-TRaC.
V-TRaC, yeah, V-TRaC.
V-TRaC,
yeah. I've been following a little bit, and I think it's really important, man. So I appreciate you creating the space, inviting us specifically to be part of this space, and I'll keep watching the stuff you're doing, bro. Keep it up.
Appreciate it, man.
Yes, sir.
Love you guys. Thanks again, huh?
All love.
Yes, sir.